What's something you saw that you weren't definitely supposed to see? I have the same first name as the CFO of my former employer. The CEO was not very technically savvy and emailed me confidential company documents more than once. And now you are working for their competitors, which mysteriously crushed them? It's a foolproof win and the CEO is luckily a fool. When I was younger I was at a friend's house sleeping over playing video games on the N64. We wanted a late night snack and went downstairs to get some cookies and we saw his mum with another man kissing. Wasn't sure if it got to the other point. On the lounge as he cried and said, "You're not my dad," and sadly this was the last time I spoke to him because he had to move away with his father. Well, his father didn't had to spend the rest of his life with a disloyal person. I guess it was a win with a few sacrifices made. But really, why do people cheat? I teach high school. While I was taking attendance at the beginning of a Zoom class a few months ago, one of the girls in the class was clearly video chatting with her boyfriend on the side because she lifted up her shirt for him and flashed the whole class. That made for an awkward communication to her parents. So how is she doing with the course? How is her performance? She definitely knows how to interact during online sessions. Well, that's great. But she has a great online career ahead of her. Let me guide you to a website. When I was 7, I was playing hide and go seek with my cousins at my grandma's house. I hid in the wicker laundry basket with the lid closed. This is awesome, I thought to myself as only a child discovering the greatest hiding place can feel. I could see through the small gaps in between the wicker. It was in my grandma's bathroom and 2 feet in front of the toilet. My grandma walked through the bathroom door not 30 seconds after I contorted myself and closed the lid above me. With my face pressed against the side of the hamper, my grandma walked in, sat down and bombed that toilet. I couldn't avert my eyes, staying perfectly still so this awkward situation doesn't turn more awkward. The noises, the smell, my grandma's vag. I won the game. I lost my innocence. I won the game. I lost my innocence. That really made the story for me. Nothing like I've read on this post so far. But one time, right after turning 21, my dad takes me to one of his friend's new bar, and we were drinking and having fun. I realize at one point I lost my dad, so I go looking for him, and I find him in the back room. He's with one of my friends that works in the kitchen at the restaurant we all work at together, and my dad is instantly, "Get out of here, don't look, just go." It took me a couple of years to realize they were doing lines off the pinball machine. I'd be relieved they were just doing lines. I think we were all expecting a bumming. I walked in on a black market plastic surgery, hanging out with a buddy from middle school. Was shady about only staying in his room and entering through his back door and being quiet. We were leaving and I turned down the wrong hall to his kitchen and there was a doctor and assistants and scrubs. Tubes, machines and plastic wrap are everywhere. I was ushered out, screamed at, and told not to talk about it. This should be up higher. That sounds terrifying. For real, that's straight out of a horror movie. I went to pay a ticket I got while driving with my headlights turned off. I walked into the courthouse office I was supposed to be in and looked through the glass to see the elected male sheriff giving the female magistrate a back and shoulder rub. They both went white when I knocked on the glass. The sheriff immediately stopped and walked to another room. The magistrate gave me the weirdest look and said, "I guess Christmas came early for you" stamp, and gave me the receipt of the voided ticket. Sometimes it pays to see something you're not supposed to see. This sounds like one of those cases where cover up is worse than the crime. A back/shoulder massage isn't that big of a deal, is it? Both married to other people and this was foreplay? My parents hooked the home camera up to the TV. I saw about 10 seconds of my mother reverse cowgirling my dad. Didn't feel like finishing my drawing at all. I just walked out the room and sighed with childhood hatred. I feel this on a deep level. You're not the only one. My mom's old friend came over. She is a little crazy but sweet too. She said I look just like her daughter and then spent about 10 minutes scrolling through her camera roll with me to find a picture of her. In the process I saw like 2-3 peen pics. She was a bit embarrassed but just said, "I'm sure you've seen a peen before, sorry." I assured her it was fine. Honestly, by the looks of the peen I was more concerned for her. Why? Did it look diseased or did it look huge? This thread got me fricked up, man. I know you are thinking Oregon Farms 2011 because I sure as hell am. My brother and I were very curious children. One day he pulled me into our spare bathroom all excited because he had found a huge surprise in the garbage can beside the toilet. Inside the garbage can there was a tortilla chip bag with a whole bunch of rolled up things inside. We opened it up thinking that they were surprise toys, like kinda surprise, left inside the bag by accident. Nope, they were my mom's bloody pads. Huh, these chips already have salsa on them. Please delete this. I was definitely not supposed to see my former boss banging the woman from the housekeeping agency. I was also not due the 35% raise that came my way the following month, but hey, worth it? Absolutely. Not because the job was great, it was crap. But it gave me a leg up in negotiating a higher salary at my next role. When I was 7 or 8 I watched my 70+ neighbor have a heart attack and drop to the ground. Face completely blue, eyes rolling into the back of his head, about a meter away from me. I feel like there was blood too, but I'm not 100% sure about that bit. I had to run and get an adult to call an ambulance. I'm positive I saw him momentarily die, but the paramedics managed to bring him back. Watched my grandpa have a heart attack and die in front of me on Christmas Day when I was 10 while we were opening presents. The one he didn't get to open was the one I got him. In elementary, I saw my teacher peeing on a bucket in our class storage. Don't ask why she didn't use the bathroom. And no, she's not old. I just came back in a few hours and this whole thread became an English class lol. On or in, because there is a difference on how weird they'd be if they peed on it instead of in it. English isn't really my main language, so I get confused by them. My mom and her male friend were in our barn when I was 9 years old. After that, our parents divorced and never spoke with each other again. I'm now 37. Heh, same. Caught my dad and his female writing partner in an alfalfa field when I was 12. The parents got divorced the following spring. Took Christmases. My wife's stepmom dated a guy who shared my name. She sent the titty pic to the wrong contact. She was around 60 at the time. I deleted it and took the opportunity to get off my ass and down to the cell phone shop for a new phone and a new number. I then texted all of my contacts saying I'd gotten a new number and may have missed anything they sent in the last 4 hours. I created a perfect excuse for us never to speak of even the possibility of something so wrong, but I still haven't wasted enough to forget it. Dang, that's going out of your way to save her some embarrassment. I do stuff like this too often. Hate people feeling embarrassed. If there's a good way to avoid it, that makes us all more comfortable. Nothing like making your fellow man breathe a little easier. My dad gave me his phone to order something because mine was out of battery, and on Google the first tab I see is how to tell your child a loved one is dying. My mum has been ill 4 years now and I've been in denial about it getting any worse, but this finally broke me. That's rough. I'm so sorry. I hope you're doing okay now. The CFO left paperwork on the printer that indicated the director level employees were getting 100k bonuses and making 150k, 3 times the managers at my company. We were laying people off while these sacks of crap were getting paid big time. That is such bullcrap. People truly are the most evil, greedy, terrible creatures in existence. I once walked in on my dad singing Go Go Power Rangers with a red Power Ranger suite on. What an absolute legend. Loser. Should have been wearing Green Ranger suit obviously. When applying for an internship I accidentally got XD on an email from the CEO to her second in command asking if they could assign a certain person to be my supervisor, even though she was on her way out. That person did in fact become my supervisor for the semester, and I was on my guard, knowing that they didn't trust her. It served me well. She left a few months after I did. I'm not too well versed in office politics. What was the implication? That she would leave and you'd become supervisor? That she wouldn't care about you and wouldn't actually supervise? I'm confused too. When I was about 9 years old I was sat in my mum's car at a T-junction right at the front, and I was in the passenger seat. On the opposite side of the T-junction was a hill with a bunch of houses on and a path going directly up the hill, which had quite tall fences on either side. I could see a woman walking down the hill with a big pushchair in front of her, and her view of the path along the road was obstructed by the fences. She just walked out onto the path, pushchair first, and didn't see that there was a guy on a bike cycling along the pathway. He couldn't see her either as she was obscured by the fence. He swerved to miss the pushchair and came flying off the bike and straight into the road. Just at the moment a lorry drove by and it ran straight over his head. Me and my mum saw everything. She quickly put her hand in front of my face so I couldn't see, but it was too late. I can still remember the woman's screams and seeing the blood splattered on the road. My mum had to stick around to tell the police what had happened as we saw the whole thing play out. I remember my mum taking me home and buying us pizza and us spending the whole night on the sofa under the duvet as it clearly messed her up too. I had nightmares about it for years, but I haven't thought about it for a little while until I started reading some of the other stories here. I remember being young, 5 or 6, in the car and my mom suddenly telling my sisters and I that if we could keep our eyes closed for a full minute, she would get pizza for supper. We were poor, so pizza was rare, so we all closed our eyes and kept them closed for what seemed like a long time. Something triggered the memory for my sister years later when we were all teenagers and my mom confessed a pedestrian had been hit by a car and the ambulance was performing CPR in the street. She was able to turn onto a side street with other traffic, but she had to think of a way to get all of us to close our eyes so we wouldn't see the gore and the person dying. I admire how quickly she figured that out. She couldn't remember if the person survived or not. Wow, that was some excellent quick thinking by your mum, and in what must have been a traumatic moment for her. In the 7th grade I was walking out of the locker room. I heard the girls' locker room door open, and me being a human responded at a sudden noise and looked over to see one of the girls walk out. We make normal human eye contact. At this point everything is normal, but in the corner of my eye, I was somehow at a perfect angle to see one of my classmates with her pants down. Needless to say I worked hard to consciously not look in that direction again. Eye contact, that's pretty hardcore. It was intense broski. My 13-year-old hormones didn't know how to handle it. My boss steal money out of our cash register. Mom and dad wrestling under the sheets. Who won? The milkman. A dishonest idiot kid at a concession stand at a nature center stealing money from the cash register while making change for me for a purchase. My ex-boyfriend wanted to show me something online, but accidentally opened a tab for a site selling engagement rings. He was embarrassed, and I thought it was sweet, even if it was a bit soon. Is that why you broke up? Many years ago in the early days of the Doritos Locos Tacos, I was at an empty Taco Bell with my now husband just enjoying some artery clogging food when a bunch of guys in suits came into the Taco Bell and sat down to have a meeting. This Taco Bell was in the hood, so they were very out of place. My husband ignored them, but I did my best to listen in. They were discussing plans for a new menu item, but I couldn't tell what exactly. Then in the corner of my eye I saw what I was certain was a prototype wrapper for a Cool Ranch Doritos Loco Taco. The suits left before we did. I told my husband what I saw as soon as they left. Sure enough, about a month later this Taco Bell became one of the test restaurants for the Cool Ranch Doritos Locos Tacos, which was released nationwide soon afterwards. Lol, I was expecting some Paulus Hermanus crap from like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. Just a couple days ago, I was trying to find the power supply of monitor I haven't used in a couple months. Soon enough, I opened a drawer and found my brother's girlfriend's toy. I only found out what it was as soon as I touched it. Maybe it was your brother's toy. Back in 2011 or so my sister plugged her iPhone into my iMac to download some iMusic from iTunes. I don't know what series of things she clicked, but all of the pics on her phone copied into my Photos app without her realizing it. A few days later I opened my photo app and got quite an eyeful. So many nudes eyeful. I saw the lady who was telling me she needed money to get home to her daughter throwing up malt liquor on the side of a 7-Eleven when I was pulling in earlier. One time I went to a concert at a dive venue that was tucked away in some back alleys. Was having a dart with a buddy out front during the show, and amidst the surrounding abandoned housing, I saw two dudes make an exchange of what looked very much to be a bag of guns and a bag of money. The bigger dude instigating the handoff immediately noticed and made eye contact with me. He slowly started reaching towards his waist. I held my cool and casually looked back towards my buddy, who was wastardly ruining a joke, and followed him back inside. I know what I saw. The man knew I saw him. I didn't look back. Was in middle school at the beach with my parents/siblings and a bunch of our family friends and their kids. Went into the water with a few other kids my age. Waves weren't crazy, but high enough to jump into while waded in waist/chest height. One girl had her two-piece swimsuit knocked half off and didn't notice. We were both like 12, and I didn't even know WTF to say, so I just stared dumbly. After a few seconds she realized what had happened, because I was just standing there mouth agape, so she quickly turned around to tie her bikini back on. The other kids were a ways down the beach and didn't notice, or didn't say anything. Her and I never spoke about it. We didn't really hang out much as we got older, and I'm pretty sure this incident was partially while lol. I volunteered at a hospital when I was in high school. One time they brought in an unconscious woman, intubated her, and left me alone to take notes and hang around. Well, the nurse made a mistake and put the air tube in her esophagus, so the lady started to blow up like a balloon. After a few minutes, she goes into cardiac arrest, still super swollen like a balloon, and the doctor and more nurses get called in to try and revive her. The doctor starts giving CPR, then looks over at me and says, "Get this freaking kid out of here." I'm pretty sure that lady did not survive. Hey man, not sure where you're from or anything, but at most hospitals it wouldn't be a nurse who intubated the patient, usually a doctor or maybe CRNA. Sucks that they didn't verify tube placement before leaving her. Definitely very sketchy. I was renting a house with my father for a while. After moving to a new city, walked into the lounge room at about 9 PM one night to pass on a message from my brother. His girlfriend was giving him a blowjob on my couch. We all just kind of froze. I relayed the message and ran back to my room. As a child, I was fascinated by the glowing cabinet in the garage, which had the doors held closed with a chain and padlock. We were supposed to pretend it wasn't there. I eventually managed to get the doors open enough to peek, and it was just plants and a light. Very disappointing. It took a few years for the moment. At university, I said goodbye to my teacher and left. I realized I had to go back and ask him something, so I did, and I entered his office to see him changing his pants with his peen out. It was awkward, but clearly an accident, so we were mature about it and never spoke of it again.